This is the Heart to Heart with Statton podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another Heart to Heart with Statton podcast. I am your host, Statton, and I have two guests here. All of you know Tinfoil. Tinfoil, say hi to the viewers. And also, we have a new guest, and his name is Hinek. Am I pronouncing that right, Hinek?
It would be more of Hinek, like the way the Czechs used to say it, but well, it's close enough.
Understood. I'll work on that. So we're talking about a very touchy subject for the most part here. But to give a little context as to what inspired this, I was going through a debate with a friend of mine, and Charlie Kirk was brought up, and he said one of the reasons he didn't like him because he proved himself to be a nationalist, and then something dawned on me right then and there. I've heard the term nationalist over and over again, and it's always painted in a bad light, but I never actually looked up the definition before, so I did that. And I started studying up on nationalism. Now, there seems to be different kinds of nationalism, like there's ethnic nationalism, which is evil, I think, but in general, though, a nationalist is someone that seems to put their country before anyone else outside. And personally, if that's the case, I don't really, and this is probably going to make me sound either stupid or bad, but I don't see an issue with that. I think people should put their countries before theirs before they can help others. After all, you can't pour from an empty bucket. But before I get carried away, Hinek, am I missing something here? Am I overlooking any details that would make nationalism bad? Is it good or bad? What are your thoughts on it?
Remember, it's for our times the matter of how it's presented, by whom, and how much of the context about it they try to either intentionally or not brush off from the subject. Nationalism will be different thing depending of what historical period you're talking about and what area where it was taken from. It will be different thing, for example, for let's say 19th century, the first half of it, United States. It will be different thing from the Brits from the same era, different thing from the German perspective from that time, because well, it went really down the drain in the 20th century. For them, it will be different thing from Russian perspective, different thing from Polish perspective, China, Japan. Take any given country and time period, and you might get 20 different things with similar starting meaning, but completely different characteristics.
So...
And it's all also now due to the press, because, well, some aspects of it will always be, sometimes understandably, have really bad connotations for, well, obvious reasons, well, Germans. While others will be completely brushed off because, well, Soviet Russians weren't really nationalists because they wanted to spread communism everywhere. Yeah, if a time machine was real and you showed up in 1930s to 1950s Moscow and started speaking different language, well, they would immediately apprehend you, send you to court, where you would be lucky if you were sent to Gulag for just not speaking Russian.
I see. Um, Now, so so I cannot. So is if I understand you correctly, uh, in some ways, nationalism can seem harsh depending where you are in the time period and everything. But when it was first created, when it first started, did it start out with did it start out with those very intentions in general, when nationalism first began, or and then it slowly turned into the example that you gave over time, or did it start out with that as the original intention?
Well, here's the thing. The concept of a nation, as we understand it right now, only started forming in the mid 19th century. You know, the People's Spring, where the group of people was started to be seen as a nation, not as just uh, we are nobles. We represent what the history and inheritance and everything connected to our country is. You're just peasantry. You speak our language, but you are the property. We don't care. It moves from that to okay, listen. We are a group of people. We speak the same language. We share the history. We might not exactly be on the same groundwork financially, but we have more in common than any of us would be comfortable with being completely open about. We need to start working for our own interest. We need to protect our heritage, our
Culture.
culture, everything that makes us the group as a whole means something than just a group of strangers temporarily taking the land. Then
You
it started modifying into what is now understood as well. Our group is different than other group. We might have some stuff better, some stuff worse. And then wait, if we're stronger than them, we might be superior to them. Yeah, that's when the problem started and the connotation that's dragged forth.
Now, you mentioned earlier that that in Russia you could get back in the day, back in the time when this was things were really strict. You could be, for lack of a better way, detained and sent somewhere just for not speaking Russian. Now, what are your thoughts in the sense of there being a one dominant language in specific countries and nations? And the reason I ask that is because America gets criticized anymore for English being the dominant language. They think we ought to be multilingual or bilingual, we even have signs posted up in many different languages. But at the same time, and I know this is probably a weird example, but just the place where I work at, you got people that work there. Not everybody speaks English, so and when you're trying to direct them or they're trying to ask you something you don't understand, and from a biblical perspective, God even divided the languages to stop them from building the Tower of Babel, which proves people gathering together in one spot and not understanding one another. It just doesn't work, at least not in my thoughts. But what are your thoughts on the matter?
I'm not sure how Basil would view it. However, in my case, well, you're going to any given country. They have their official language, which is used for any official, legal, or business stuff. Well, at the very basic, you should at least understand that language and be able to, at least to some extent, be able to communicate in it. Because, well,
Where be bathroom, at the very least.
yeah, yeah. Like you wouldn't really use gestures to say that, for example, your bladder is full and you need to take a piss where I need to go.
Because that would get me shot.
That
Yeah,
that is true.
in some areas, yeah. And also, well, people bring the case of, for example, ancient Rome, that it was a highly efficient empire that really lasted a long time, and it's in some way or form still alive to some extent, even today, because a lot of countries actually take it as a, well, so-called default as how things should run.
We still
They had
inherit.
a strict policy of we are speaking Latin and it's the main language. You should at least be able to communicate at the very basic level. Well, there was a reason for that. So saying that, well, you go to the country, don't bother learning the basics of the language is just as good as saying, well, you don't need to learn anything while you're adult. So someone will do stuff for you. Yeah, and you'll either end up in jail or you end up in the streets because everyone will more or less screw you over from anything. Your earnings, your savings, fruits of your labor. That really wouldn't matter in the long run if you're not able to even grasp the concept that someone is trying to rip you off.
Not to mention if that philosophy would have gone, wow, somebody else is gonna figure out. Even aside the initial obvious repercussion that people would screw you over, pardon the language, is if it would be a common problem that would paralyze the entire infrastructure, the offices, anything would be either severely slowed or grounded to a halt. No communication, no effective communication during the uh, functioning of such a society, city, or empire would be viable. Imagine trying to do any administrative issues where nobody knows what the other guy is talking because he's talking gibberish.
And once again, I gotta use the place where I work at as an example. We got a bunch of people that are Burmese. Some of them speak English, some of them don't at all. And then you got the ones that don't speak English go over the PA system and they say something, and I was like, okay, well, uh, I'm just gonna go on the assumption that that has nothing to do with me or the department I work in. But if it is, I don't know what they want me to do about it because I can't understand what's being said. I mean, I get that America is considered the melting pot. We're supposed to have different cultures, different languages, but at the same time, there has to be one dominant language. Even back in the New Testament days, Greek was the dominant language. Even with all the nations and everything, if you didn't speak somebody else's language, you at least understood Greek, and that made it so people could understand each other better. And with America, it's like, yeah, we speak all these different languages, but English, there's just no denying it. English is supposed to be the dominant language, and I don't know why we feel what and I this sounds bad. I don't understand why they feel like we have to accommodate them learning their language when they come to our country, when we know if the shoe was on the other foot and we were going to their country, I wouldn't expect them to learn English for me. I better learn their language.
Now, this is gonna sound bad because you were basically conditioned to do that. I mean, imagine whole pop culture throughout the ages, if it goes for books or whatever, mostly Hollywood, was basically first it was like, oh, forgive him, he's one of them, God-loving patriots, and they just show him as a lovable fool, and they turn down the temperature of how you were portrayed, and then at some point they added, you need to apologize because you're such a bad person because you love your country.
And that
Also, remember that a lot of people that speak that it's bad thing, they have a severe case of oikophobia, which is like the polar opposite of xenophobia. You don't hate everyone that is outside. You're so afraid of them that you start hating everyone that is from your group. down to the point where even the concept of, well, they come here, maybe they should be at least expected to use the same language becomes so irrational fear to you that you think it's a bad thing. Like, oh, you want them to learn our language? What are you, a Nazi?
I that's
Why?
Sorry.
I didn't
What?
think
So,
I didn't think diluting or getting rid of confusion would be considered a trait of a Nazi.
I mean, Koenig did point it out very clearly that it is also, you can put it out to the modern virtue signalers. If you can see, that's a really, really big tell.
yeah, remember a lot of media, for example, Hollywood, opinion makers are now so far gone to the ideology of the things that anything even slightly right on the spectrum from Stalin for them is literally fascism or Nazis. You can't argue with them because they are too stupid sometimes, unfortunately, to even understand the meaning of said words, so they keep using it to devalue anyone they don't like, down to the point where today, even from the bad connotations from the history, well, it's literally a nothing burger. You call me
Basically,
bad names because you can't form a valid argument. You don't make me look bad, you make yourself look even more stupid.
basically, it's a Pavlovian reflex of sorts at this point. It's so ingrained, it's an automatic response.
But it's also, and these examples I have may be bad examples, and if they are, feel free to tell me. But it's like what I said earlier, as in the beginning of this conversation, was the fact that they consider nationalists also, they believe that we need to help our own their own country first before they can help others, which to me, it only makes perfect sense, because if a country is struggling financially, how do you expect them to help any other countries out there in the world? We are barely, the average American is just barely making it paycheck to paycheck when it comes to paying house bills and everything. But we want to send millions over to all these other countries. It's like, yeah, I get it, help them, but at the same time, we're even most people will tell you, hey, you got to establish your own home base and you got to make sure you're well taken care of. You can't pour from an empty bucket. Even when you play video games that require you to set up bases, you start out with your home base, make sure it's all set up, make sure you got things circulating properly, and then you expand and move on and focus on other things. It's like even video games seem to play better logic than what politics does today. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're struggling. Take what you don't have and send it on over to these people. And if you don't, you're just a nationalist. It's
Well,
like,
because remember, a lot of people that do this are actually doing this because of a method of emotional blackmail. Usually, people, when criticize you in that such a fashion, are basically either too stupid to notice what they're doing and they're already brainwashed, or they're actually pushing an agenda because they were ordered to.
Or they are playing long game on the fact that some of the resources that would go from, for example, you to nowhere population one in the middle of sticks, that somewhere along the line that will be able to illegally acquire some of those resources, be it steal it, emblazon it, same thing.
yes.
And also, well, about the language thing, I used to work abroad in London, not the Canada one, the United Kingdom one, for about 2 years. Yeah, there was a large Polish diaspora there. However, they wanted to be so European that unless you force them to, they were pretending that they don't even remember the language. Every office thing had to be done in English, everything on the street tended to be dealt with in English also, even though some minorities, even though they lived there for like 4 or 5 generations, still didn't really speak it. But the funny thing is, they still had certain views on other nations. Like, for example, if you were going through the South Hall, the so-called Little India, and they heard that you were talking with Eastern European accent, or God forbid Polish, they would immediately get hostile with you. Unless you started cussing in Russian, then they literally were becoming pale as a flower and started apologizing down to the point of bowing and, oh, Putin friend, sorry. Yeah. Once you go to any country other than yours and they speak different language, at least have the common courtesy of learning the damn thing in the basic
Yeah.
level, like elementary school at least.
Whereas as Hinnik actually, in the other ones Hinnik mentioned, all he has to do is to avoid any kind of trouble to do his best impression of Ivan the Terrible, and everybody shits their knickers.
I've never heard that one before.
Well, let's just say Germany did a lot of bad things, and to be honest, they probably are preparing for another one. Russians always benefited from that, but after the last big war, Russians literally changed German genetics to the point where it's hard to find a how would I put it? Undiluted crowd among them.
A German.
Yeah. Because literally whatever was still in the condition to be forcefully taken by Russians, 9 times out of 10 was. No matter the age or sometimes even gender or species.
Now that we've reached the half-hour mark, I would like to open up the podcast to anyone that's watching that would like to put in their 2 cents worth or have any questions they'd like to ask. All they have to do is hop into my Discord server, hop into to my voice channel that's titled podcast, and we'll listen to what you have to say. And while we wait, we'll continue on with the chat. So I guess now my next question is and this is good to know. This is why I love having you and Tinfoil around, because you two are you're able to look upon the U.S. from an outside perspective, right? And while I got enough people that look at it from the inside. So my question is, do you think the nationalism that Charlie Kirk spoke of, that he pushed for, do you see that any flaws or faults in how he spoke on nationalism?
Well, I wouldn't really label him as nationalist. He, in my view at least, was just a patriot that saw the writing on the wall, that literally said, as he said himself, when people stop talking, bullets start flying.
Basically,
The moment where you stop giving other people ability to speak and you start dehumanizing them, sooner or later someone will have the not so bright idea of just get rid of them. And that's when bad things start to happen. Well, look at Yugoslavia, look at the fall of Soviet Union, Germany, dehumanize the other side. Well, off to the lead poisoning you go.
Basically, he was a highly functioning, highly reasonable Christian centrist.
Yeah.
Now,
Some, yeah, some elements of nationalism, yeah, it would be present in patriotism, but I didn't ever see him trying to have the superiority complex of we're real Americans, we can do whatever the hell we want, we don't care about anyone else. Well, no. We are Americans. We have moral and logical obligation to sort our own problems first and then open up and help others with however we are able to at the moment.
Also,
If your house is on fire, you wouldn't really jump to your neighbor to, for example, take his cat out of the tree. You would put your house fire off first and then go and try to help the neighbor once the situation is sorted on your end.
a lot of it is how you see it, and all this entire situation is also due to how it's framed by media and narratives, in which media, and what happened to the entire Overton window, right?
Yeah.
now I don't want to put you on the spot, Hanek, but I would like, if you would like, I would like to have you on. Not, I know you're a busy person, so I'm not going to say on every podcast episode, but if I would like to make an episode in the somewhere in the future talking about fascism, and I would like to have you on as a guest for that episode if you would like, because I think we could definitely use your opinions and thoughts, because I like what you've been saying, and quite frankly, I've been learning quite a bit from you. So I think there's so much more I could learn from you on subjects like this.
Well, I'd be happy to help with that.
Thank you.
Especially since we're a certain group that has anti stuff in their name is actually ironically doing exactly what they are supposed to be against. So yeah, that will be quite ironic on their end, even though they would probably start throwing Molotov cocktails and bricks at me.
Oh, I guess that's the benefit you have on of doing it online. I mean, people can't do that from behind the screen. I mean, they can type stuff out, but that's about the worst that can go.
Well, here's the thing: those idiots here are also.
And jokes on them, Hinek is more than prepared to actually fend off those kind of people. He's trained to do that.
Trained to do it,
yeah.
huh?
Well, let's just say Hinek has some expertise.
Yeah. Let's just say I spent some time in our military, and just because I know that shit can hit the fan, I like to review and check certain things.
I don't know why. I do not know what you look like, but I could just I still can visualize us partially, where we're all sitting at a table together having this discussion. Someone gets offended, they approach us, they start picking a fight, and as soon as you stand up, you're like towering over them, intimidatingly.
You're very right. He's insanely tall.
Well, 6'2" isn't really insanely tall, but yeah, I'm on the higher end.
Hey, 6'2". That's the type of thing that those women on those weird social media shorts talk about. We want a guy at 6'9". This guy's 6'2". Close enough.
Well, gold diggers always look at your wallet first, so yeah, I'm safe from them.
Not to mention, by disposition, he aside minus the body count, he's more like a Slavic Frank Castle.
I do not know
just
who.
More wiry.
I don't know who Frank Castle is, so I'll have to look him up.
The Punisher.
I don't know who the Punisher is.
Oh God, we gotta educate this man.
Yeah, prepare aspirin, Statton.
Oh, okay. You can post stuff on the meme channel on my Discord server, then that'll help, probably. Suddenly that channel becomes an educational channel for Statton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And well,
the cultural clash, of
and
course.
yeah, about the, for example, the views on the matter. Well, I'll post you something that you can read on your convenience, even after the podcast. It's more or less stayed the same for us here, even after the whole mess we've been through from the last, yeah, slightly over a century. The same views still apply here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Long story short, most countries have natural disasters. We have our neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I'll check this out definitely.
Told you he's a history buff.
That's a good thing. I try to be a history buff myself. The thing that's okay, this gonna make me sound like an idiot, but I'm gonna say it anyways because I believe in honesty here. As much of a history buff as I would love to be, I am scared because I see too many different versions of history being told, and it's like, okay, which one is the true one, and which ones are the fabricated versions? Like an example. This is a tiny example, but an example nonetheless. You'll get history stories about Abraham Lincoln's childhood and how he had a strict father but a good father with good morals. Then you get another version. Oh, he was an abusive father that starved him and his sister and left him out in the cold while he went and searched out a second wife. It's like, okay, which version of history is the true version? And how do you know if it's the true one?
Well, you know,
Well,
there's
that's the
something like presentism, if I'm pronouncing it right, Hinek, right?
well presentation, but
No,
the
no,
other thing that
presentism, as in
people keep forgetting is the fact that you can't exactly apply our current logic to how things were back then and how they were viewed back then.
yeah, that's
Because,
why it's called presentism.
raw presentation. Raw parenting these days would be like scolding a kid or, for example, taking his PlayStation or whatever away from him for the evening. For our generation, well, you mouthed off to your parents, yeah, you'd be lucky if you'd be able to sit for the next day. For our parents' generation, well, still beating, still yelling at, maybe kneeling on the peas. You know, this dried up grain
Mm-hmm.
thing. For our grandparents, well, no dinner, still getting slightly beat up. Well, 19th century, early 19th century. Listen, kids, here's the tools, here's some food, maybe some weapons to defend yourself with. Don't goddamn injure yourself. I'm going for about 2 weeks. If things turn out bad or I'm not back, go to your neighbors and ask for help. Well, current standards, oh my god, we need to call Child Protective Services or we need to call cops. Back then, okay, that be safe. Don't die, and we try to remain alive also. Yeah, you can't really apply what we have right now to back then.
This is
Because,
true.
well, for example, in the past, earning, let's say, $8 an hour would mean that you have literally in about an hour a groceries for a day. Earning $1 an hour today, well, Calling yourself
Hard to
a slave would be great understatement because you're
because
literally working for less than peanuts.
it's not taking into account the transformation of the entire industry, and everything else, and also the economy and doesn't take into consideration the inflationary effect over the years.
Yeah.
And
Child raising standards have completely changed. The literacy value is completely different, even though people have really big misconceptions about Middle Ages, where they saying that, well, people were illiterate, stupid, and they kept hunting witches. No, they didn't really hunt witches back then. More people were able to read, not exactly write, but read, and they weren't some stupid peasants and idiots riding horses with dull swords either.
also, they probably most likely didn't have as much as they had less problems with their teeth than current people have.
Yeah, the life expectancy was also shorter. However, I have a general understanding that even though their lives were shorter and some plagues were literally lethal, most of them were in better shape than we are these days.
I agree with that because, for one thing, they had more physical labor, which actually worked the body more, causing which so so I believe people were more fit back then. People weren't as admittedly overweight as some of us are, mainly me.
Yeah, but that's due to diet. There's something like rabbit starvation, and I can actually explain more on that.
Yeah, certain types of food that you're consuming need to also contain certain basic elements in it. Because, for example, you can hunt and feed only on rabbits. Yes, it will be really good protein for your body. However, because rabbits have next to no fat, your body will start burning your own, and no matter how many rabbits you eat, you will start losing weight down to the point where it will be detrimental to your own health.
That's a
Basically, you'll be a big ass metabolical candle on overdrive.
Yeah.
oh wow. Now, so yes, you are actually blowing my mind right now because you have disproven a lot of the things I was taught. You pointed out how people were more educational back then than what we led on. I exactly exactly what made people believe these misconceptions about the education system back then? Why are we teaching people today that the average person couldn't read or write or anything?
Well, let's put it that way. Uh, if you have a village full of idiots and only one person that can actually read, for example, head priest or tax collector, imagine that you're a lord of the land and you need, for example, 50 people from sticks to go and do some work to, for example, help repair the castle. If there's only one person that can read, how in the whatever is going through your head would you think that anyone would be able to do anything? Yes, people weren't really able to write because one, paper wasn't really a thing back then in Europe. It was parchment, which was
Or
really
animal
expensive
skins.
to do. Yeah. Two, ink wasn't also cheap because, well, as someone who doubles in the things of faith, you would understand the concept of European monks meticulously copying books one after another. Those books weren't expensive just because of the material needed for them or the labor. It was also the matter of fact that if, for example, you made a mistake on copying the text, well, you didn't just lose the page, you couldn't really erase the mistake. You had to rip out all of the page and throw it away and start the page from scratch, which could mean that you, for example, just lost 2 weeks of, let's just say 10 hours a day of carefully scribing on the parchment.
Because you have to disassemble the book to put the new page back in.
Yeah, and also, well, making the ink was really expensive. That's why medieval schooling in rural areas. I'm not talking about big towns like Krakow, Bologna, or anything where they had universities. The basic teaching was the local priest was collecting local kids, teaching them really, really basic math, like adding, multiplying, deducting, and so forth, and basic reading stuff, like, for example, taking the Bible, reading out loud lines, ba 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 ba. Okay, you understand the text? No? Okay, again. Ba 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 ba. Billy, don't sleep. Again. Ba 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 ba. Now, Billy, you heard that? Yes? Okay. You're the one with the bad attention. Come here. Now, see? This word here, it's read like that. This word like that. This word like that. What do you remember? Okay, now, look at the page and read it out loud. Okay, you don't understand the letters? Repeat from memory, and I'll correct you. If you do something really stupid, I will slap you across your head, and you will start again.
And it worked. Like a charm.
Yes, yes. Eventually, the even not so bright kids were able to understand that this word means that, this word means that, this word means that. Okay, you went from that level? Okay, now we'll learn the basics. This letter is that, this letter is that, this letter is that, this letter is that.
Also,
Any one of you is good with painting stuff? Okay, you will learn how to read in case an official comes from the lord or from the liege or from the capital, from the king. You will be writing things for them. Okay, now you will learn uh, more advanced things. The rest of you, go remember this stuff, help your parents in the field, go do some work for the Lord, whatever, you're done for today. Now, Billy, come here, take the quill. I'll give you some ink and we'll start training, okay? Okay, write
I
this
can
letter. Wrong. Again, write this letter. Wrong. Again.
I can almost hear the priest winding up his hands.
Yeah.
uh,
Mostly because the ink was really expensive and, well, him taking his time to learn local kids this very basics also took its time where he could be doing anything else. And,
That's a lot of
well,
things.
yeah.
Also, I just wanted to point out why is it taught that this entire period was different, as you asked. Like, so remember, a lot of your education is, well, forgive the pointing it out, but a lot of academia is infiltrated by Marxists and cultural Marxists, which basically are not very friendly towards the church, which basically in those times was the only agency that was willing to dispense any kind of education to the peasants, masses, call it what you will, and that persisted upon today. For example, they're saying they didn't want the church to for people to read. They chained the books so people wouldn't know about. No, basically, most of those books were heavily ornamented with the very expensive pages and inks, as Henrik said. Mostly, so a lot of it was encrusted by precious metals and golds. So that's why it was chained, so nobody would fucking steal it. Would you trust a poor peasant with a book. Oh, sure, I'm just gonna read this, and this entire book is worth more than the entire freaking county.
Yeah, also remember the fact that communism wanted, in effect, to, as they say themselves, paint the bourgeoisie as they were. So, namely, any aristocrat, uh, anyone from clergy, pardon the wording, any ruler, anyone who was basically rich was supposed to be viewed as enemy of the people and enemy of the state. If you had any power over anything and you weren't distributing that to the community,
You were the
in
devil.
their view, you are literally the spawn of the devil. And how to excuse the act of dealing with those people in a permanent way? Well, paint them as bad people.
Seem vaguely familiar, Statton?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Also, as you can probably attest, a lot of these people continue that kind of portrayal and that persisted in academia towards anything didn't like because they wanted the grants. If you don't give me that grant, if you're one of those, you're the devil. You're the pig, blah blah. Put random spouts of bullshit from communism over here, and they wanted that power, they wanted that money, and they wanted the ones to be given that, and I'll dispense it equally amongst the other. Trust me, bro. And that persisted in any academia, in any kind of merit-based organization that is supposed to educate the youngster, the youth, and adults later on. And obviously, they're gonna do that. That prefers their way of life because they're gonna benefit from it. So basically, that's why they distorted view of anything nationalistic, anything like that, because that would contest their viewpoint. So basically, they had to smear it out through the ages, as whenever that came to existence.
And they continue to do so.
I I thank you for all of this. In fact, I do kind of apologize. We may have gotten a little off subject when it came to our talk on nationalism, but at the same time, I feel like this other subjects that we've been covering over are equally as important because it'll give anyone who listens to this episode a bit more of an understanding than what they may have had before. I know it certainly had that effect on me, that's for sure. Um, Now, with that said, we're down to the last 5 minutes of our hour, so I'll quickly drop the advertisements. Enoch, do you have anything you would like for me to advertise on your behalf?
Well, just the fact that, folks, no matter the walks of your life, do your own research, learn from the history. If you don't, it will eventually go and bite you in the ass.
Understood.
That's only semi-parental advice from me.
What about you, Tinfoil?
Well, I would reinforce what Hinek said. Basically, think for yourself, otherwise somebody else is going to do the thinking for you, not necessarily in your favor.
Okay. And
As for what you said about us veering off the topic, not necessarily. Remember, a lot of what is nationalism and love for your country, what it stems from how you were raised up, how you were educated to care for your country, to care for your countrymen, from your religion or from your culture or from your education.
amen. And with that said, I would like to say that this podcast is brought to you by my Discord server called Statton's Mansion. I leave a link to it in the description of all my lives and videos, and I leave a link to my Venmo and Cash App account for optional donations. Donations are not required, but they are appreciated, and they make it so we can speak as openly as we would like without the fear of demonetization and everything. Um, Anyways, thank you, Tinfoil, and thank you, Hinek. This was a real blast for me, and I hope you two enjoyed this time that we had. And for all you viewers, I hope you are able to carry something away from this, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. My name is Statton. Like, share, and subscribe. And y'all have yourselves a wonderful day. And remember, you are not alone.